Hello, screenwriters, and welcome to Writing for Screens. I have thoughts, hard work over time. My name is Glenn Gers, and I am the chief everything of Writing for Screens. I have created this channel to try to teach some of the things that I had to figure out for myself during a 25-year career writing for TV and movies. On my way out of that business, I thought I should leave behind for those who are coming next some of the tools and tricks and skills and insights that I had to work very hard to figure out for myself so that you don't have to reinvent the wheel. My basic ideas are all in very short videos that I have put on the channel. This is a little screen grab of the main page of the channel, and if you look at the first 3 playlists. I have a little shot of those here. The first 3 playlists are Screenwriting Essentials, Screenwriting Tools, Skills, and Craft, and The Process, Being a Writer. Okay, these 3 playlists, about 50 videos all told. Each one is only about 10 minutes. These live streams are something else, but these 10-minute lessons are carefully crafted on a specific topic. For instance, dialogue, genre, character. Each one of them, that specific topic is the title. It's also the thumbnail. You can just browse through these thumbnails and go, oh, I want to see what he can teach me about flashbacks. And there it'll be 10 minutes, a bunch of thoughts for you to try. There is no right or wrong way to do this. There is only things to try, tools and skills for you to try to see if they fit your way of working, your kind of work, and you as a person, because every single artist has to figure out their own way of getting it done, their own path towards what they want to do. I could not possibly tell you what to do. All I can tell you is when you're trying to do it, I have found that these things can help in these circumstances. You try them, you use them, you don't. Whatever works for you, they are there for you 24/7 for free here on the first 3 playlists. Then there's a whole bunch of these live streams. These live streams come to you every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. That is when I try to come on live for an hour to talk about a topic and also to answer questions. So today's topic is going to be about hard work over time, but then I will have some time for whatever you want to ask me. That is the deal for this channel. That is my intro. Hello to Sonia. Hello to Martla Toso. Hello, Fun Flash Forward. I don't think I've ever seen you before. So glad to have you here. Thank you so much. That's cool. Donna Nelson. Hello from down under. It is great to have you all here. Okay, so we are here at the end of August 2023, and I'm going to do a little section prepared, and then I am open for questions and discussions. Let's talk about this topic, hard work over time. Here's the deal. This whole came to me because recently the New Yorker magazine on their website republished a memoir, a little essay by Steve Martin, the actor, comedian, writer, about how he learned to be funny. And the beginning of this was a description of his first job when he was 18 to 22 years old. He worked at a place called Knott's Berry Farm. Knott's Berry Farm is a weird little local amusement park here in Southern California. It's gotten pretty big actually now. It's got some great stuff, but back in the 60s when he worked there, it was a little offbeat family-run theme park. Anyway, so here's the deal. Here's what Steve Martin wrote in part. He said, "My first performances for a paying audience were at the Birdcage, a wooden theater with a canvas roof. Inside were 200 folding chairs on risers. The actors swept the stage, raised and lowered the curtains, cleaned the house of trash, and went out on the grounds pitching the show to visitors strolling around the park. I was being paid $2 a show, 25 shows a week. Even in 1963, the rate was considered low." The show consisted of a 25-minute melodrama in which the audience was encouraged to cheer the hero and boo the villain. The play was followed by 2 5-minute routines in which the actors did their specialties, usually songs or comedy acts. And here I was able to work steadily on my fledgling comedy magic act, 5 minutes at a time, 4 times a day, 5 on Sunday, for 3 years. That's what got me thinking about this. I'm going to briefly say some hellos. So cool. Very, very glad. Fun Flash Forward is great to have you here. I look forward to various questions and whatnot later. Hi, Sirius and Joni Doshadow. Wow. Okay, cool. Great. I am very, very glad. Yay. Thank you so much. I look forward to talking to you all. Let me talk a little bit more about Steve Martin and what I learned from him. He was talking about working when he was 18 years old for 3 years, doing shows at Knott's Berry Farm in their wacky little theater. And the thing that it made me think about was the point that he was doing 4 shows a day, 5 on Sunday for 3 years, okay? 4 shows a day for 3 years, including Sundays, okay? That's a lot of shows. That's a lot of work. That's a lot of practice. And that is what I wanted to get to, hard work over time, because there has come in the past decades a mythology of the first-timer breaking through from outside with their first work and becoming the next big thing. It started really in the 1980s and 90s with the indie film business growing, because the idea was that they wanted to promote indie outsiders, people who would figure out a way to get a movie made, which at the time was very, very hard to do. And these first works were often very rough and weird and unusual, and they needed to promote them by saying, look, this person is the next big thing, and they came from nowhere. And that began this mythology that you had to break through with your first work. In other words, this was the debut film of this guy who managed to put it together by creating film out of old ribbons in his house, and he built it himself and he made it, and now look at this work. There was some great stuff that came out of that. Steven Soderbergh, who actually had worked professionally for many years before he made Sex, Lives, and Videotape. But Robert Rodriguez with El Mariachi, Spike Lee with She's Gotta Have It, Jim Jarmusch with Stranger Than Paradise. There were many, many people who broke through at that time with in this model of the first-time filmmaker. And here's the thing I have to say about that. The mythology of the first-time breakthrough is a sales tool, okay? It is not a realistic description of the work, all right? Now and then you will get someone who's talented and ingenious and worked out a way to make a film by themselves. Kevin Smith, Edward Burns, these people did that. That's fantastic. Tarantino, although he had been working in the business for many years when he got his shot to make Reservoir Dogs. My point about this is we have lost the understanding that the way that work is built up as an artist is over years and years, okay, of working at the craft. Let's look again at what Steve Martin said. Okay, I was able to work steadily on my fledgling comedy act 5 minutes at a time, 4 times a day, 5 on Sunday for 3 years, 4 times a day for 3 years. Okay, this is a lot of practice. This is a lot of trial and error. What's really interesting is that that's just the start of Steve Martin's story of how he learned. He then went on to theater groups. He went on to comedy clubs. It was years figuring out how to do what he wanted to do and getting good at it. Years of work. This is really important that you understand. The main thing I'm trying to tell you is making good art is really fucking hard work, okay? It takes a lot of work over a long period of time. I am not saying this to scare you off or to intimidate you. I'm actually saying it to encourage you, because if you do not get it right the first time, that's normal. Steve Martin was not Steve Martin those first 3 years of 4 shows a day. Okay, hold on. Let me quickly get some hellos in here. Oh my God, Gene saw him. He stood up. That is so cool. Wow. Hi, R. Fung. Good to see you. Yes, a summertime look. I shaved it off. Diablo Cody. Yes, there's many people whose first work, but I guarantee you it was not the first time they did that job, okay? Hard work, high reward, no. You can work really, really hard and get no reward. That is absolutely possible. It is likely most people will work really, really hard and not get a high reward. That's just the reality. That should be okay with you. You should be okay with that. You should be okay with doing 4 shows a day for a bunch of people who are at an amusement park. That should be okay with you. Hi, Michi. Were you really there? Did you? That would be so cool to hear about. Blair Witch, once again, yes, there are plenty of examples of first-time breakthroughs. They have partly the people who release movies need that first-time breakthrough mythology, so therefore they are more likely to pick up a first-time work than a second time, which means that they are steering the art form towards that. They will not promote somebody's second or third piece of work, while nonetheless they often need to do a couple before they get good. That's normal. How many hours you dedicated to write a day when you started your career? I didn't write as much as I wanted, but I worked every single day. I tried every single day, usually tried for a couple hours. Absolutely. And we're talking when I was 14, 15 years old, up until I was in my mid-20s when I started to make some money at it. Late 20s, actually. Hey, Ricky. Great to see you. Are you saying that possibly a quirky change in the genre formula so it can result in a possible... It can, absolutely. But that's not the point I'm trying to make here. What I'm trying to make here is that the selling of indie films required a certain mythology. Just like the selling of music began to build up when YouTube and now TikTok were starting to take away the music business's control. What they did was they started to pull stars off of YouTube from their popularity and make them stars. So there were certain things that created a mythology of the path in. What I'm saying is that mythology does not reflect the reality of what it actually takes to break in, to do the work. All right, Gene, we got it. We got to hear about that. That is so cool. Hello, Errol. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about how hard it is to do these jobs at a professional level, okay? I'm talking about it when you see something professional, the people working on that have built their way to that work. Very, very rarely do you, in fact, never, do you see something that was made by people who just stumbled into it or it's their first time. What you are seeing there is sometimes you'll get something like El Mariachi, where he managed to put together essentially a first draft of the movie. And then the studio and producers came in and helped him to reshape it, to redo the sound. They paid an extra $200,000 for that $6,000 movie to make it a finished work that could be shown. There is absolutely people who break through and do terrific, unique, independent work the first time. However, they do that with the support of an experienced professional group, okay? And the main thing is, when you see any professional work, you are looking at people who have learned and worked at that craft very hard over time. And I'm talking about everyone. I'm talking about the painters. I'm talking about the costume assistants. They work incredibly hard, okay? The dolly grips, the electricians, it's a very specific craft. And you do not just wander into it and say, hey, this would be fun. It's not like high school. It is at an other level. And the point about that is that should be fine for you to understand that and to work towards it. However, most people now beat themselves up or criticize each other for not being somehow professional level without the hard work over time. That is what I'm getting at. We consume this stuff so easily that we do not recognize the work that went into making it. That really bad movie you saw, that was really hard work. I'm not saying that means it should be good, and I'm not saying you should not think it's bad. I'm just saying don't kid yourself that it was bad because they were being lazy, okay? That is usually not the case. Apprenticeships, the work of learning an art form, of mastering an art form, takes years, okay? Famously, the Steve Martin thing is a good example. The Beatles in Hamburg, famously, the Beatles were the Beatles. They were already talented. They were already good. They were working their way up, and they got this gig to work in a strip club, a bar in Hamburg. Okay, and they went over there and they lived in this shabby little place, and they worked, I think it was the same thing, like 3 or 4 shows a night for months and months. It was brutally hard. You have to, it's not an audience that's like, oh, we want to discover a new band. It's like people at a bar, okay, and they wanted some fun music, and the Beatles had to learn how to play together, how to make their work. And that's supposedly when they got to be the Beatles. There is a famous phrase, 10,000 hours. It comes from Malcolm Gladwell's book, Outliers, which is an excellent book. Malcolm Gladwell talked about having done some research, and there was a theory, a belief, that the mastery of an art, a skill, a sport, to become really, really good at a thing takes 10,000 hours. Okay? 10,000 hours means working 3 hours a day, 365 days a year for 10 years. That's what mastery generally requires. And to the question earlier, did I have to do that? Yes. I started when I was about 14 or 15 years old. I worked 2 or 3 hours a day without fail pretty much every day of my life, and I did not start to make any headway. I mean, I had little successes, like working at Knott's Berry Farm would have been, for 10, 15 years. Absolutely. And that was only to get into the business. At that point, I needed another 10 years to master the business, maybe because I'm slow, I don't know. But it was really hard to, having mastered the craft as best I could, I then had to master the business of that art. Anyway, let me do some quick hellos. I saw in Steve Martin's masterclass his idea 30 years ago didn't work, and then he remade it recently and put it into the show. Yeah, absolutely. Once again, hard work over time. Actually, no, Robert Rodriguez funded that film partly on credit cards, but legendarily, he became a medical test subject for pay. He would go and be in a medical lab test as a lab subject, and he was paid for that, and that's what he used to fund that. The credit cards famously was Robert Townsend, a movie called Hollywood Shuffle. Lots of people use credit cards, actually. And that's a bad thing to do, by the way. Credit cards, it's a really bad way to finance films. Hi, Umbra Man. Oh, good. I'm glad that you have good creative reasons for not doing the lives. I do not mind. I do not feel like, oh my gosh, I'm mad at Umbra Man or any of you. If you're here, you're here. I am thrilled. If you are not, cool and groovy. Hello, Wolf Powers. Yeah, Good Will Hunting, another example of Matt Damon and Bad Affleck. By the way, that their first script was massively rewritten with the help of many, many producers and other writers in order to get it into the shape that was Good Will Hunting. Okay. Hi, Michael. I'm not sure what Pareto's rule is. Okay. What is the meaning of master the business? In other words, I may know how to create a good script. I may know how to write good dialogue or figure out good characters, all the mastering the art. Then learning how to do that for other people who are paying you and expect you to do rewrites on command, change themes, change characters, all those things to understand how to behave when working with people. That took another 10 years, maybe more. I'm not great at that. That's why I try not to give advice on that topic, because I don't feel like I am a good advisor at how to behave in the business. Hello, Lasanda. Okay, so my point here is that being a professional artist requires hard work over time. And that really only makes sense if it's work you love. Okay, if you are not loving it, spending 10 years doing it is not a great idea. Do it now and then. Don't worry about being a professional. That's the other thing that I should point out, is if you are truly devoted to it because of an inner drive to the work, then hard work over time, not a big deal, okay? You want to do it, even when it's unpleasant, even when it's requiring you to go through painful changes or to do things that take you away from other things. All of those things have happened to me and to most people who do this art form. The answer is you kind of feel it's worth it. You feel like it's being paid back, not by the commercial or renown rewards, by the work, by doing a good job, by trying to figure out how to do it better. That is what keeps you going for 10,000 hours. You cannot do 10,000 hours on the promise of a big money payoff. It just doesn't, first of all, it doesn't always happen. And second of all, it just won't keep you going for 10 years. It's too hard. So my point is, that's okay. I do not want to say you shouldn't do the art form. I'm saying not all art should be professional, okay? If you like cooking, you may just want to cook for yourself and your friends and your family. Or you may want to cook and open a little local cafe, which is going to be very hard work, but it's not going to be the kind of hard work required to open a chain of restaurants across America, or to get the number one restaurant among restaurateurs, or whatever those high-end competitive business things are. That's the equivalent of making movies or TV in a professional capacity. That doesn't mean you shouldn't have your cafe. And it doesn't mean you shouldn't just have dinner with some friends now and then. You can spend 10,000 hours to get good enough to really, really make a great dinner for your friends. And that is good. That is absolutely, the people who love to cook will not say, I regret the 10 years I have been working on cooking. They will just say, I don't want that to be judged by whether or not I get a Michelin star or whatever the hell cooking rewards are, okay? If you want to do this art, there's many, many ways to do it that do not require you to be as insanely competitive and devoted as professionals are. Professionals have messed up lives because of their professional work. They do, in the arts. There is nobody who has a nice, quiet home life and is a professional in the arts. Okay, so my point about this is I've just become disturbed by the way that people offer this industry to the audience and to the people aspiring to it, as if it's a thing you can sort of do part-time and wander into, and if you start to get paid, then you'll put in the hard work. That is not how it works, and I do not mean in any way to discourage anyone from doing it. I mean to discourage you from trying to do the big studio movies. You can do the local cafe movie. You can do, and that is frankly much, much better to do. And if you do that, that is the equivalent of working at Knott's Berry Farm, as Steve Martin did, or working in a bar in Hamburg, as the Beatles did. Do that for years, 4 times a day, in front of a little tiny audience, and you get good enough. And that is my point. That is my way of trying to say it is very important to people who are selling how to be a screenwriter or how to make movies to suggest that there is some kind of gambling competition in which you put yourself in and you figure the odds and you kind of nudge the odds by doing these tricks, and then you get in. And that's not how it works. How it works is you spend 10 years, 3 hours a day, getting so good that you may edge into a part of that. And then you start to work. That's it. Okay, let me quickly do some things. Yeah, how to behave. Swear to God, that was the to the end of in the 25 years. I mean, this is how good I am. I was a good enough writer that I behaved like an idiot, and I behaved rudely, and I was difficult, and burned a lot of relationships in my determination to do what I thought artistically I should do, and I still kept working for 25 years. So that is a sign that I was worth putting up with, and also that I was learning incrementally. If I did as I went along, began to learn how to compromise, how to take on someone else's vision and put my craft into it. That's a whole other skill. Anyway, okay, let me check out Randy's idea. The Pareto principle states that for many outcomes, roughly 80% of the consequences come from 20% of the causes. In other words, a small percentage of causes have an outside effect. That makes sense. That makes sense, and it is true of the arts. The thing I would say about it that's tricky is you don't know which 20%. And the world of us people trying to tell you how to do this is mostly full of people trying to tell you, hey, this is the 20% that matters. I don't believe that. I mean, I do. What I believe matters is doing it whether or not you are successful, learning to love it whether or not you are making it professionally, because I believe that is very much out of your control. That's my spin. I read a film business book that a producer would be crazy enough to throw their laptop towards screenwriters. Yeah, not less so now, but yes, it is not unheard of for some producers to be dangerous and threatening and out of control, and that is something you should try to, frankly, if it happens, if someone is behaving badly towards you, stand up to them and say, I will not do this anymore with you, sir or ma'am. My bad behavior was I did not throw things. I did sometimes argue in a frustrated way, but I was not the powerful person. I was the person who was trying to get the powerful person to do something. Okay. The concept is important because to understand, because it can help you identify which and if it, yes and no. In the arts, yes and no. In science, I have no idea, but that is true. You would think, we all think that we can figure out the 20% of things in creative art that will make the 80% difference. It's hard to say. If we could, more art would be successful. And by successful, I am putting it in quotes, air quotes, because the success that I'm talking about, the success that you guys all think of as success, the success where you're on the big network or on the big screen and paid, in theory, the big money, is in fact a teeny tiny slice of business success. Whereas artistic success is a very large and complex and wide and often unpopular thing. So, and to have artistic success often means you do not have business success. Okay, how is cooking an art? Ouch! Cooking is an art because you are being both craftsperson-like and are creative in understanding the processes and the goals and taking a thing that you have enjoyed and trying to learn how to do it and then doing it for other people. It's absolutely an art. Cooking is definitely an art. Watch The Bear if you get a chance. Bear's a very good TV series. Wells said he started at the top and worked his way down. That is only partly true. Okay, this is another good example. Orson Welles famously broke into Hollywood as a beginner. His first film was Citizen Kane. Absolutely true. It was not his first work of art. He had started as a kid and worked his way up in theater and radio in massive, repeated hours and weeks and years of work. He had created theater companies. He understood so much of narrative, of drama of all the things that go into making a good movie. Plus, he loved movies and had studied movie making. So the idea that Orson Welles came in and his first movie, it was his first movie, it wasn't his first show. He had done hundreds of plays, I believe, certainly hundreds of performances, and had been on the air on radio, which was the equivalent of TV at the time, for years. Okay. So attending classes like yours really helps in surgically applying your labor. It hires. I don't know, Randy. My point is the people who say to you they are going to help you cut down on your learning time are kind of lying to you. I believe that you can't cut down on the learning time. That's the whole point, that you need to do the learning time. It's not like you can cut the 10,000 hours down to 1,000 by reading the right book or watching the right video. You can't. No matter what you do, you still need the 10,000. Nobody knows why, but it appears to be true. And that is if you have talent to begin with, if you have the personality and the vision and all those things that are required, then you need 10,000 hours. If you put in 10,000 hours without talent, you'll actually still be pretty great craftsmen and pretty cool. There are people who make a good career without much talent. That's okay. All right. You too can be a 10-year overnight success. I hope you can. Yes, that is the exact thing. And anyone who isn't, what happens then is their 10,000 hours has to happen after the beginning, and honestly, almost a lot of those don't do too well. Anyway, there's no absolute rules about any of this. People get lucky, people get supported, people get all sorts of things. Is it possible someone is a successful screenwriter and doesn't have a messed up life? It depends on how you define messed up life. The demands of their life, just like the demands of a successful surgeon or lawyer or anybody else, are going to cut into those things which the rest of their life demands. That is pretty much required. Why do some screenwriting courses indicate that you should learn every technique with them before entering the business? Because they want you to give them your money. That one's pretty obvious. Yeah, it's absolutely. I am always right. I stay always right by saying I'm not always right. Okay, how can some people afford the life to be a screenwriter and actor at the same time, given that screenwriting are hard enough? Everyone is different. For some people, first of all, some people, once again, I've said you can be a successful screenwriter without being a good screenwriter. You can be a successful screenwriter without being a master of the craft. Sometimes things work out. For instance, if you are an actor, you will often get the chance to write something and then get to make it. That happens a lot if you're a big star. What's most interesting is how few of those continue to write. How few. Most of them do one or two, and that's cool. And the thing is, good actors often are good writers because they understand characters taking actions in scenes. And there are some phenomenal actors who become screenwriters, directors because of that. I am struggling to find some kind of balance. My house is in disarray because either fix the house or lose my sanity, or work and keep my sanity. So I'm writing it. Yeah, this is the hard thing. Anything you do that you care about is going to take away from other things. You do have to struggle. What Wolf is saying here is true. Struggling to find some kind of balance. That is a non-stop thing. Okay? If you get most people who are successful, to be honest, I've heard Denzel Washington talk about the fact that he's had to leave his home to go work on movies and plays sometimes 3/4 of the year. And he said, I had to leave my wife to run the family, to run the home. I tried to be as in touch as I could, but I was going to be in another part of the world for much of the year as my wife and children were living a, quote, normal life. That's what's required. Bryan Cranston recently said he's stepping back from all the work he's doing so that his... oh, gosh, we lost our camera here. Hang on. I've got a loose wire on the camera, and sometimes it just doesn't stick. So, anyway, let's see. Hello, I'm almost here. There we go. Okay, sorry about that. Better picture. Anyway, the answer is it is a struggle to balance devotion to anything. You know, like I said, a doctor, a person who owns a store, who needs to be in their store personally to work all the, and they have to work weekends and holidays and stuff. Yeah, that is going to take away from the pleasures of ordinary life. The trade-off is there, and you do generally have to face it. It is not a right or wrong. It depends on who else is in your life. If you are making others suffer for your art, you want to negotiate that. You want to think about, is that fair to them? Do you need to do that? Etc., etc. My point is, if you find the person who can live with the way you work, and you can give to them and they can give to you, whether that is a romantic partner or a family member or a just roommate or whatever it is, then that can be successful. That can be rewarding. There isn't a right way to live your life. There are wrong ways. It is wrong to cause others harm. It is wrong to take their money so that you can do your thing, unless they are willingly sharing it with you. There's a lot of things that are wrong, but there isn't the right life. There are people who don't see each other that much, but when they do, they really have a good time together, and they feel okay with that. Okay. Hi, T. Trent. If I'm not working, I'm really unhappy, outright depressed. David Bowie said something about artists, creatives, and social dysfunctionality. I can be social, but I'd rather work. Yes, me too. On the other hand, you do want to be able to enjoy those things that you can in real life. You have to balance it. You have to figure it out for yourself. But the main thing is you have to not buy into some stupid mythology that says, oh, it'll be easy. That's what I started with. Or, oh, you can have it all. Having it all is one of the things I believe is just not possible. You can't work a demanding full-time creative job and have a very calm home life where you spend most of your time at home. You just can't. Now, you can have it all in that some people, they have children and they bring them to work. I'm not saying you have to do one or the other. I'm saying you'd have to recognize that things are mutually exclusive. You can't live in the country and the city. You can't do it. You have to be in one place at one time. Okay. In feature film, give me more. Give me more before I can talk about that. It's quite impossible for me to write every day as I live in a small apartment in Hong Kong where I don't even know. Yes, exactly. It is that. Yes, exactly. It is hard to write every day. Well, it was hard for me when I did have a small apartment of my own, but I had to work all the time. And then when I wasn't working, I had to make sure the laundry got done and the groceries got bought and the food got cooked. And then, of course, you do often want to have a social life. So, yes, sometimes what I believe is see if you can find 20 minutes of quiet time. And that can be in your bed, facing away from your roommate with your laptop, and just try and write for 20 minutes. You don't necessarily get to do it all the time. Nobody gets to do it as much as they'd like, as much as they think they should. Seriously, nobody. Okay. Shea Khan. Oh, good. Tuning in really helped. The main thing I'm hard working on right now is drawing and storyboarding, but I also like sculpting for, yes. Yes. Yeah. What I'm talking about, I believe, is true of almost any effort or especially creative work, but also, like building if you wanted to build a house, you could, in theory, build it more or less by yourself. I mean, there's parts of a house that you need another set of hands for. But But you could do that a little bit at a time over years, or you can get a big crew together and a lot of money and do it in 3 weeks. But either one is all right. It depends on your reality. Okay, well, if you need to write in complete silence, and you then see about noise-canceling headphones. That's the best I know. I'm a hard-working dreamer. That is no small thing, and do not discount that, okay? I did a video about that very subject called Imagination. I urge you guys to watch that if you're thinking about, because there is a lot of the work of creative work that's just daydreaming. Absolutely true. And you do need to give yourself time to do that. It is, if you want it to be productive in terms of your craft, you generally have to figure out a way to capture it in some form. I am having the same difficulty as Wolf Powers, but I'm compartmentalizing my home repair projects one part of the day. Yeah, exactly. That is what you do. You compartmentalize. You accept that a little bit over time is absolutely fine. If you can't do 3 hours, the way I did 3 hours a day was that mostly I didn't have friends. I went home after school and I stayed by myself and I tried to write. And often I just watch TV. But yeah, I didn't have a great high school social life, or college, or after college. College a little more because it was right outside the door. Anyway, the point is, do not beat yourself up if you can't do 3 hours a day every day, but try to do your 20 minutes or whatever it is, because over time that work will become hard work over time if you keep it up. And you'll be surprised how much you can find bigger sections of time now and then. Okay, Atanu. In feature film, I always try to tell a journey of the protagonist, but face difficulty when I try to write scripts for web series as many central characters come to my head. Yeah, that is fair. That is not, you're not wrong to do that. Not wrong to face that. The structure of series of any kind, anything serial, anything long form, is going to have a different kind of structure. Now, it is possible to write a series with just you stick with one character over a long period of time. Generally, series, they break it up over many characters, and you need to study how other series do that. Take the series, there's a video I made called Take Art Apart. I will put the links to these videos I'm mentioning in this description of this video down at the bottom about 10 minutes after I am done broadcasting, because I have to go get the links and put them into the description. Anyway, Take Art Apart is about the idea that if you want to make a series, watch a bunch of series, and the ones that you really love, watch them 3 or 4 times. Watch them over and over again. Watch them with a pen and a paper or your laptop and pause and write down a list of the scenes or a list of the characters. Figure out how they do what they do. Break it down technically. That is part of the work. That is part of the job of any creative person, is to study the technique of how the people you admire or aspire to be, how they actually did what they do. And then you can do that. But there's certainly nothing wrong with having a series not just tell the journey of the protagonist. Some tell the journey of multiple protagonists and their relationships to each other. Some just tell several stories and they bounce between them. That's all okay. There's no law that says you have to stick to a single protagonist in a series. How is Kubrick able to bring his unorthodox storylines to cinema screens of the world? Was it all about connections? No, it was not. It was about a lot of things. This is a thing you should all do. It's the same as Take Art Apart. If you admire a certain artist, read biographies of them, read interviews with them, see how they did what they did, because it will be different in every single case. In the case of Kubrick, he started as a photographer. He was a photographer for Life magazine and many other magazines. He was a professional photographer. and he wanted to make films. He started by making, frankly, raising the money or self-financing a couple of little film noirs. The first one was called, oh gosh, I can't remember now, but it was about a boxer. It was a little film noir filmed in New York City. He built up an indie thing, did nothing. Then he did one called Fear and Desire, which was a war story based, I believe, on a short story or a novel. He built up over years. The thing that happened was he had a hit. The way that people get to do unorthodox work is they work outside the system and they find a way to finance and release things on their own, no matter how small the audience, or you have a hit. If you have a hit, then very often the business will trust you to take risks. So Kubrick's did a very successful, but frankly fairly straightforward film noir called The Killing, in which what was cool about it was there was a lot of time shifts. It was very nicely done, but it was not Kubrick yet. It was still just a really cool film noir, a crime movie. But with that, he built his way up, and with each one of it, once he had Dr. Strangelove, he had enough cred, and Kubrick happened to be working at a time when it was in the 1960s, when a group of producers and studio executives were on the lookout for unorthodox work, because that's what was doing well with the kids. The kids had become a new audience. No one really knew how to appeal to the kids, the young people, the hippies. They were a new audience, and therefore something sort of outrageous and anti-war like Dr. Strangelove got the backing of a studio. Once he had the backing of the studio, he had people at the studio who would let him do what he wanted, and he always had his eye on commerce. He may have been unorthodox, but he was never, ever not considering how to commercially find a way to make a hit. He always wanted to make a hit. Anyway, the Kubrick is a full hour's worth of talk if you want to, but the answer is it was not about. It was about connections in the sense that he built relationships. In other words, he worked with producers and executives and proved that he was capable of delivering something unique and commercially viable, and then they let him do it. It wasn't like he's like, oh, he's my friend, so I'll do whatever he wants. How about good writer and bad actor? There are some. The other camera isn't quite interesting. Yeah, the other camera is just my desktop computer camera. Some great stories were ideas thought up when the author was a teen. Absolutely. Very often, we carry with us certain things in the course of our 10,000 hours. And when you get the position or skill to make them, then you try. That's normal. Okay, Krampus. Hi. I'm just learning that this thing of caring deeply about one thing takes away from the other. Yeah, I have too many art projects. Yeah, welcome to the club. Most creative people I know have that. One of the things you have to do with all of these things, they're choices you make. And everything that you do is a choice. I am going to put more time into this. I am not going to put more time into this. When you do that, everything you do is a choice, and every choice has a price. I believe I've got a really good little... I have to get my things organized. I had a really cool graphic of this. Everything you do is a choice. Every choice has a price. If you choose to devote yourself so hard to your work, the price may be you can't throw dinner parties all the time, or that is part of the choice you have to make. It is disturbing, but it is the reality. The other thing is that most of the successful people that you hear about, when you hear about some big movie star or big Hollywood writer or director, doing all this stuff, that's because they have other people working for them, okay? They have someone doing their laundry for them. They have someone driving the kids to school so that they don't have to. They get people to do that stuff that is taking up your life. They get other people to do that. That it's really hard to understand the difference between this teeny tiny weird professional level thing and what the rest of us do. Okay. Little filmmaker named Christopher Nolan filmed following. Yes, exactly. Right. Yeah, it kind of worked out for him. I guarantee you there's a bunch of people who filmed over weekends and did not become Christopher Nolan. That's my point is you cannot look at any activity and say, doing this will guarantee this result in the arts. You can't. It just doesn't happen. For anything that somebody famous did to become famous and successful, there will be other people who try to do it and it won't work. That is not an attack on those people. It is because every artist has their own situation and personality and gift, and it has to latch into. It's like a virus finding the holes in the world. In the business, Christopher Nolan frankly would not be Christopher Nolan if at the time that he got lucky and after Insomnia they said, hey, you want to do Batman? Okay, he would not have been able to do all Inception and Interstellar and Tenet if he hadn't done Batman. And Batman could have gone to someone else, and if not, who knows what Christopher Nolan would be doing now. I'm not saying he wouldn't be making movies, but he wouldn't be Christopher Nolan. Things worked out. And that's not to say that Batman made him, because other people made Batman and didn't become Christopher Nolan. Joel Schumacher has made some fun movies, but he's not Christopher Nolan. Anyway, thank you, Moria. I appreciate your love, and in a completely professional and YouTube-y way, love you too. I don't think we can define wrong in it. Yeah, absolutely. There are some things that I think are wrong. I think it is wrong to treat other people badly. I think it is wrong. I think it is wrong to abuse other people. There's stuff. I heard something from Jordan Peterson. If you're creative and don't create, you die emotionally. I think the thing about that is it sometimes over dramatizes and makes things life or death in a way that isn't healthy. You can be creative without being successful at creativity. So I guess my point in that is you love working hard creatively. It feeds your soul, and that is good. If you couldn't do any of it, that would hurt you emotionally. That would definitely hurt. But you would be surprised how many people can live perfectly great lives being creative privately on their own, just like cooking their own creative meals or making a garden, and you just grow enough for you. That's cool. That is exactly what some creativity should be like. We would all like to. This is an important thing. This took me years to figure out. If you are writing really well for an hour, you think, oh my God, if I could just do this for 100 hours straight, I could write War and Peace in a week. But you can't. That's the thing. That's like saying, if you are a sprinter and you're running really, really fast for the 100-yard dash, you can't do that for a marathon. So it's very important to recognize that the work it takes to do a longer piece requires a different kind of running, that there will be bursts of that super intense good writing. Then there'll be other things where you're just sort of slogging along and you're making little inroads. And that's okay too, as long as you know that's what it is. You'd be surprised how many little bursts show up, but you do a burst all the way through. Learning to deeply focus is a very good skill. Yes, it is required. Sooner or later, if you are going to be creative, you are going to have to learn to focus. Multitasking, there are some proponents, there are some opponents. My main thing is, at a certain point, at least for short periods of time, you must fully focus to be creative. I recently had an extremely traumatic experience that made my reportage of Vietnam. Oh man. Starting back on my novel in the 1960s, I am angry but stuck. Suggestions. Okay. Get parts, the traumatic things in your life cannot only be treated by creative work. They also have to be dealt with in those ways, the mental health ways, whatever therapy or meditation or distraction or healing that you need to do. Take that seriously. That's a thing that supports your writing. The creativity doesn't have to solve a traumatic experience. Second of all, damn, Gene, you've had the most amazing life. Reporting in Vietnam, performing at Disneyland. I believe you've also been a lawyer. Wow. So all I can say is, starting back on your novel about the 1960s, you're angry but stuck. Here's the question. Are you angry at yourself, or are you angry and therefore motivated? Because those are two different kinds of, because it sounds like you're saying, I'm angry, I want to write, this is good, but I'm stuck. Or are you angry because you're stuck? As far as the stuck thing goes, this is where my little videos, they really, I swear to God, this is where my best advice on that is. Anything I say now is going to be a repetition of those, which is small steps, getting it on paper, allowing yourself to just do a little bit at a time. Those are the things that will help with that, especially when you're writing about something that is deeply, deeply emotional or traumatic to you. You can't do that full time. You need to do a little bit, find its place, transform it into this creative thing, and then also deal in your life with that thing, separately from the creative stuff, in whatever way is good for you. Different people are good. Some people, ketamine treatments are good. For some people, talk therapy is good. Almost always some form of mental health taking care ofness is important to take seriously. Don't just bottle it up and try and get it into the book. That won't help. You need to do both in order to let both really, really work. Also time and all the healing stuff. I would suggest, by the way, Cheryl Strayed, Straed. She wrote a book. She wrote a book called Wild, a memoir, which is really made a nice movie with Reese Witherspoon. But she also wrote a book called Tiny Beautiful Things, which is a series of essays that she did as a advice columnist called Dear Sugar. And I found that full of good. There's lots of stuff out there that you would want to deal with about those feelings. But you can't just expect the creative work to solve emotional problems or emotional realities. I don't want to even call them problems. They're not. It is not a problem to be traumatized by a traumatic event. It's not a problem. That's just that's the healthy reaction to having something happen or being reminded of something that happened. So therefore, take that seriously as its own thing and balance that with some private work on the creative side. When you do the creative work, once again, getting it down into a form, getting it out of you and into a form, thinking in scenes, writing an outline, writing notes, all those things, it will help, I believe. That's the best I can do on that. Gene, I would suggest if you need more specific help, email me directly or just do that by going to contact me on writingforscreens.com. And there's a Gmail address and you can just email me. Okay, no more comments because we're getting to the end of an hour. Let me see what we got here. I always come with an idea for a TV series. I think we all, not we all, many people do. Whenever I watch anything, I was like, what would I do with this? What would be my version of this? Ooh, I wish they did this. that can lead to a completely satisfying, separate, creative piece of work. A lot of stuff that most of us do is, oh, I wish that this had been like this. And then you do that, and by the time you've transformed it into your version, it's its own work. That's cool. Just don't call it Gossip Girl and change, create your version of that. Hi, Yuli. Do you think there's a way to quantify writing so workers have, today I can get the work done? Yes, I do, but for me, because I couldn't do the word count thing. I have a friend who does it. It's like, I need to get X number of words done a day. I know other people who do it by time. I just start very small. I just say, get some work done. For me, it's like, if I can get one, because remember, for me, this was so hard for so many years that I had to get down to, if I can just get a sentence done, that's today's work. That's cool. I did a video about this called Fear of Writing. I would suggest you check that out. I will put the link in the description below. The answer is find a thing that works for you. It can be time. It can be words. For me, it's more just like I know when I'm working and when I'm not. I know. And so I sit there and I say, okay, today, just work, damn it, for 20 minutes, just 15 minutes, half an hour. And what often happens is after you've done that for a little while, a few weeks of just 15 minutes a day, you start to actually want to go longer. The way I work, I go until I burn out because I know I'm not going to make it past 3 hours. I can't. My brain just fries. On the other hand, I get a lot of good work done in that time, and that's what I meant. You can't, just because you can do good work, and I don't mean 3 hours nonstop. I mean 3 hours, work 20, 30 minutes, take a break, get a snack, come back, work 20, 30, so 3 or 4 hours of that, and I can't do anymore. Just can't. I can feel it. That's how I operate. Maybe I would be and when I'm trying to get something done that's really, really like I've got a deadline, I will say, okay, do that twice. Take a big break, take a walk, take a shower, and then do another hour. Whatever it is to push that number up a little bit to get things done. You have to go by sensing yourself. That's the thing. You have to say, does the word thing work for me? Try it. Give it a week or two on word count. Give it a week or two on time spent, 2 hours. Whatever it is, that's the answer is my way of quantifying is work. I know when I'm working and when I'm not. When I sit down and I say, open up the document, look at the document, do some creative work. I know what creative work feels like. I know what it is when I get a scene outlined better than it was before. That's work. That's how I do it. But that's me. That's, I think, partly because I'm just ornery, and if I have word counts or anything, sometimes for a specific project, I will have page counts. I'll be like, I need to get X number of pages or words done because I have to hand in 40 pages by the end of the week, so I'd better damn well do 10 pages a day. Sometimes in specific circumstances, that matters. Okay. Do you think we write the things we love to watch? Yes. Yes, absolutely. That is, there's just no question about that. Art is such an obsessive, it's hard to let it go. Yes, it is hard to let it go, and different people have different problems. For me, the problem is I can never do as much as my obsession wants to. In other words, I want to work 8 hours, and I really can't. So I'll work the 3, and then I will, organize research or read a book that's related or take notes on something. Whatever it is, at least I'm feeding it. For some people, the hard thing is to learn to stop. That's not me. I stop really easily. But the point is, once again, is always figure out your strengths and weaknesses and work with them. Don't try and make them not true. They're going to be true. Hi, Butte. Okay. Jeff has a 250 word daily bracket. Yep. Yeah, sometimes it depends. Yes, I know lots of people who set themselves things like that. Thank you, Wolf. Yeah, me too. That's why I wrote it. Yeah, okay. I read a lot of Louis Buñuel autobiographies, biographies, even Spanish biography. Wow. Yeah, no, you're not crazy. You're just don't do that instead of writing. You do that after writing. Barbie is essentially in terms of money. What? Barbie is essentially in terms of money. What? Barbie essentially. I mean, to me, I'm not sure what that relates to. Like it must have come from something I said about like this. This is the thing, and Barbie is. Yeah, I mean, if you're talking about the fact that when you have a hit, then you can do what you want, to a certain extent, yes. Yeah, absolutely. And actually, in the case of Barbie, Greta Gerwig broke through with Lady Bird. Lady Bird was what let her do Little Women. Little Women is what let her do Barbie. Yeah. Everybody has their good and bad. Okay. Sometimes when you have all the time, yeah, exactly. It is sometimes a really good experience to get what you want, to get free time or whatever it is, because then you discover that it wasn't holding you back like you thought, that something inside you is what's holding you back. The times that I have had free time is when I learned that time wasn't my problem, that it was my ability to sit still and focus and exclude other fears. Excellent. Yeah, into a form. Good. That's okay. Just can't get to all of them because I got to stop because it's late. Thank you. Yeah, fear of writing. Okay. I hope so, and I think so too. I agree. I don't agree that I'm so great. I agree that a lot of us are creative as a way to deal with emotional, sometimes trauma, sometimes needs, sometimes just the way you're working, the way you're built. Creativity tends to be how many people find a place in their life for things that the rest of life won't let them deal with. Yeah, I'm not going to get into conspiracy theories, except to say the guy who did the movie Blackberry, I think his last name is Johnson, did a really cool little found footage video about faking the moon landing that I thought was really good. Okay, does the belief that you'll somehow make it as a screenwriter? It depends. I believe you kind of need that belief, and that the only thing is it can be delusional, or it can just take a lot. For me, I had that belief starting when I was like 15 years old, and when I was getting close to 30, there was a part of me that was like, what if that belief is wrong? And so then I began to think plan Bs, and then things did work out. I do believe you need the belief that you'll make it to proceed. I think that it's very unusual to make it if you don't want to make it, if you don't believe you have a chance at making it. What I'm always suggesting is don't just make that belief the payoff that makes things worthwhile. Make the work and continue to ask what defines making it, because there are so many ways to make it other than being hired in Hollywood. I spent literally 20 years trying to make it into Hollywood before I made it. In that time, I missed a lot of opportunities because I was focused on that one thing. Once I was in Hollywood, I then spent another 20 years trying to A, stay in, and B, figure out why the making it in Hollywood wasn't doing the stuff that I wanted to do. What I learned is making it in Hollywood, making it in the business as a professional, does not satisfy a lot of other artistic goals. Making it, meaning I wrote something I think is good that connected with people, but only in a local cafe way, like only a handful of people, that may be more making it than I made a lot of money and somebody saw my name on a sitcom episode that has no words of mine in it. That's happened to me. I have written for sitcoms. My name is on the screen, and there is barely a line of my writing in that episode, because that's what happens in professional writing. And you get people calling and saying, hey, I saw your name on that sitcom. I could tell you wrote that episode. And it's just not my writing. It was rewritten. Is that making it? Yes. Is that making it artistically satisfactory? No. In many ways, I would rather do a play in a local theater for 30 people. Yes, of course, I am simply telling you from the experience of having had both experiences that, there is not one definition of making it. I meant to say that Barbie is essentially in terms of, yes, Barbie is definitely, exactly. That is 100%. And God bless her. I am so happy that Greta Gerwig has hit that sweet spot, and she did it her way, and that is such a rare, beautiful story. But it is encouraging to think about, first of all, how many decades. She was not a first-time filmmaker when she made Lady Bird. She had been acting and writing and directing for years. She had done so many little indies, and she had worked so hard for so long. Just that Greta Gerwig is a really good example of someone who did not just break in with Lady Bird. Look into her history, you'll see she was working on these little indies that nobody knew or saw, with a whole bunch of creative, collaborative people in really cool ways. Okay. You are entirely welcome. Thank you. Hello, 7. Writing helps to deal with a lot of personal trauma and mental illness. Yes. Yes, absolutely. I'm not saying that. Me too. Me too. I think that is a useful, essential part of art. Good. I'm here to try and help make that process easier. By warning you about the difficulty of being a professional while you're doing personal work, and to talk about ways to make that process comfortable, techniques, tricks, tools, skills, things that might help to take your personal feelings or desires or fears and put them into a creative form. Sometimes it helps to have techniques and skills. Okay. You are welcome. Thank you. Time to go. It has been... I've forgotten which button to push to end this. Okay, go write something.